Okay, so here we are at the computer. I've wanted to do some more long-form mixing videos for a while, and I've always been kind of stymied by my screen recorder. I think I have it figured out now, and so here we are in a Pro Tools session with the drums that I recorded for the dry vintage drums video I did a ways back that people seemed to enjoy and like the sound of. I enjoyed that recording as well, and there's a lot, or at least there's enough, I think, to go over on the mixing side of things to make it worth making a full video. So we're just going to go through these track by track. I'll explain sort of the thought process behind all of the mix decisions, and hopefully, even if you're not going for this exact sound, there might be something that you can glean from whatever my thought process was. So no fancy cuts or edits here. You and I are just going to go through in real time, and you've already seen the name of the video and you've seen how long it is, so hopefully you are along for the ride. So let's jump in. This is for a song. This is for a song from a project called Shiver Twins. This is a band that I'm in and recorded the drums for, as well as mixed the rest of the track. So let's just hear like an intro and verse. This is an unreleased track, but I think I'm okay here letting you listen to just a little bit. So let's just hear these drums in context.
It's not too easy to explain all of the way you stole away my pain. Desire me to ever be anywhere close to what you see.
Okay, now just a little bit of the drums soloed. Okay, so the vibe that we're going for here, I hate using this terminology, but I know vintage is sort of a buzzword. Basically what I mean by a vintage vibe is I put tea towels on the drum set to really, really mute things, but where the comparison to a vintage style stops is that I was going for a much punchier sound, a really, really tight room sound, and more extended low end and more in the low mids, which is sort of uncharacteristic of actual vintage drum recordings. So, some people would call this modern vintage. I don't think that that's terribly descriptive, but hopefully what I'm explaining here makes sense. So, like I said, this was, I think this was my DW collector series. It doesn't really matter what the drums were because they had tea towels on them. There was a tea towel in between the hi-hats, tea towel on, or I think there was a shirt actually on the snare, and then I just had the bass drum just stuffed with stuff. So, and I think the bass drum actually might have been my Camco. Again, I don't think that's terribly important because everything was completely dampened anyways. So I think maybe what we should do here is just go through. Let's listen to the raw recording here. So let me disable all the plugins, and I'll boost the gain a little bit just so that you can hear them a little bit better. And let's hear this. This was the raw recording, more or less. Okay, so I mean, not terrible, but definitely not what we're hearing in the track here. So when I engage everything again, yeah, I mean, the mix is doing a fair amount of heavy lifting, but it would have been very difficult to get to this place if I hadn't done the whole tea towel thing. So anyways, let's go through bit by bit. With this one, I believe I usually start with the kick, go through all the close mics. Sometimes I'll start with the ambient mics like the overheads and then go backwards like a top-down approach, and sometimes I'll go the other way around. Most of the time I think I start with the kick, snare, then overheads. I kind of go in this cycle, but this track was more about the close mics than the overheads or the room mics. So, anyways, let's start there. So, first thing, let's just solo up the kick. And you will notice that I had a kick in and I just eliminated it. It just wasn't working. I had 3 mics. I had a kick in, a kick out, and then a sub kick style mic. And I only ended up using the kick out and the sub kick. And actually, I didn't even really end up using the sub kick, which you'll see in a second. So the kick out on its own sounds like this. This was probably a large diaphragm condenser. Can't remember. And I thought it sounded really, really good on its own. And there is definitely some bleed from the rest of the drums in the room, but I kind of liked how it added some more low end or low mid energy. So I didn't EQ that out. And then the sub, here's where things get interesting. So here's the sub on its own. And you might be thinking, wow, that sounds really clean and almost like a sample. And that is because it is basically a sample that I sort of created here. So the original sound was this. Let me turn it up a little bit. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it just wasn't really what I was looking for. I wanted that really clean, extended low end in the kick. So what I did was I started by triggering. Okay, check this out. So I started by triggering. I got this sample pack of like someone hitting a punching bag, and that sample sounds like this. Ooh. I don't know why that sounds so gnarly. I think maybe just because it's going through. There's a lot of bus processing here. I realize. We'll talk about that after the fact, but. Yeah, so that's what it sounds like. I tuned it all the way down, and that just sounds kind of messy and grainy. So, most importantly, I took out all the high end, roll off at 75, so low pass, turns it into this. And you got to be using monitors or headphones to hear this. I turn it up a little bit. So that really did the trick, I thought. And then, of course, there's no bleed because it was triggered. And then I used this guy, Bark of Dog, which is I'm not 100% sure exactly how it works, but my understanding is that it basically just adds a layer of the selected frequency on top of whatever it is that is engaging it. So down at 45 hertz, I've got a ton of it added in. So I've just got this big ball of 45 hertz engaging every time the kick hits. Without it. With it. And then I'm just taking off the lowest frequencies just to clean up any potential mud. And then I am gating it just to make it even shorter, just to really have it be a quick burst of energy. So then the kick sound is, you can see I did kind of a gentle roll off at 50. Here's something else I want to mention too, actually. This is important. So the sub, you can see here, is going straight to the 2 bus. So that's my mix bus. The sub is not going through the kick processing or the drum processing because it's going to get squashed and distorted too much. So the kick sub, I just wanted to be as clean as possible, so that bypasses all of the rest of the drum processing, goes straight to the mix bus. Okay. So really, this is just processing the kick out mic. I'm just taking away some low mids around 500, and then rolling off some low end so that the sub can do all of that work. And then actually, I removed even a little bit more at 150. That's basically what's going on with the kick. Snare, like I said, there was a a shirt, I think, on this snare. It's probably my Black Beauty or an Acrolite. Doesn't really matter. Without the processing. Really not that different, actually, surprisingly. So I've got the snare top and snare bottom. Snare top sounds like this. Snare bottom sounds like this. Together. This is just rolling off the low end from the snare bottom. We don't need any of that. And then, and I guess not inverting the phase, which normally would be necessary, but I guess just the way they were lined up. Yeah, looks like maybe it should be reversed. Hold on. Ooh. Yeah. Anyways, that's something I'll check out later. So the bus processing here, not really the bus processing, but just the processing on both the snare mics. We've got the SSL channel. I'm boosting some 200 hertz, so some low mids. Like I said, I want this to be sort of a swampy low mid kind of track. Boosting some 4.5K and then rolling off the low lows. We're doing some compression just to give it some smack. Then we're using Smack Attack here. I've really enjoyed this. This is a transient designer. Most people use the SPL. That one's kind of expensive, if I remember correctly. This Waves one, I think, works really well. I haven't used the SPL one, but this one works really well and is, as all Waves plugins are, it's on sale almost constantly. So just adding a little more like kind of point and stick attack. I could exaggerate that for you. You really got a lot of attack and smack there. So got that going on, but a little goes a long way, I think, here. Decapitator. This is just kind of to beef up the low end and add a little distortion, just a little bit. And then let's see what was going on here. Just kind of I high and low pass like it's a bad habit. So anytime I can, I remove those frequencies. So I'm high passing just in case anything was sort of built back up in the compressor or the decapitator. So I take all that out. And then it looks like this was maybe a treble frequency for me. Let's see. Yeah, so it just kind of opens the snare up a little bit more, and it's possible that was kind of getting in the way of the kick or the bass. And then this is a free plugin that I have gotten a lot of use out of, and I really, really like. I think the company is called Klanghelm, and IVGI is the name. I know this is emulating some piece of gear, but I don't know what it is. I can't remember. But this is just like, I use this for mild saturation. If I just want something to sink back into a track a little bit, I'll just up the drive a little bit. It's like this is very hi-fi, and then when I turn this on, just kind of sinks back a little bit. Okay, sinks back into the track. So, another thing I'll mention too is that I did not gate the snare, which I often do, and part of that is because there are a lot of ghost notes in this pattern, but also because I thought that the bleed actually was adding to sort of the low-mid, grainy vibe I was going for in this whole track. So that was an intentional decision. Okay, overheads. The overheads it's probably in the video. I don't remember, actually. It's probably the Coles, but I don't recall. Here's with the processing. Dry. Those already sound like very tight and kind of sticky is like maybe the wrong word, but very attacky. So what I'm doing here is I am taking out some 500 hertz, which I frequently do with drum stuff. Then I'm high and low passing. That just kind of knocks off. I mean, this just takes care of sub frequencies, and then this low pass is just kind of knocking off the really, really hi-fi stuff or high-end stuff that I'm not really looking for in this recording. Yeah, especially the hi-hat. I kind of want all that like sparkliness to be gone. And then to really accentuate the idea here, I've got the Sans amp. Very different, and I dropped a lot of level as well. This recording is really, really not about the ambient mics. This is really about things being very like up close, but also muted, if that makes any sense. So anyways, I had room mics, and I just, at some point, I just kept blending them lower and lower and lower until I just dropped them. I was like, there's no reason to risk the phase issues, and it just wasn't adding anything. So the toms, let's go to this fill here, and let's do no plugins. Ooh, sorry, let me solo that. Again, not bad. And then what I've got going on, I've got an SSL channel on each of these. Here, let me put them side by side. I think they're almost exactly the same. Maybe they are exactly the same. I think I might have just copy pasted here. And what I'm doing, it appears, what am I doing? Low passing and high passing, always. Adding some top end, some 8K, classic CLA move. Removing some 3.5K, which is a frequency that often annoys me. Taking away a ton of 500 hertz. And then adding a ton of 80, which I don't remember doing. But you can see what that does. Again, without. And then with. Woo. I'm surprised I did that, but there you go. I've also got the gate going. It's not completely gated. Again, I'm still getting a little bit of that rumble and a little bit of that bleed that I think is actually adding to the characteristic of the entire drum sound, especially without room mics or having the overhead so low. Getting a little bit of bleed from the snare and from the toms is actually kind of giving me the ambience that I'm going for. So there's that, and then what do we got going on here? On the tom bus, yeah, okay, so this is doing some compression. You can see the mix knob is at 50%. HComp, this Waves plugin, has an interesting, very specific utility that I have used it for frequently, and that is if you set it, even if you're not compressing, if you set it from analog, if you use analog 3, it has the effect, it has a very different effect depending on what you put it on, but on drums, it really, really seems to tame whatever it is you put it on. So, for example, let me turn analog off. And then on. The effect is more pronounced on other microphones. It's probably hard to hear exactly what it's doing, but it is a pretty dramatic effect. And if there's anything that's just too present or up front, I will sometimes mellow it out. Sometimes I'll just put this compressor on and just set the analog on 3 and not have it compressing at all. But we are compressing in this case. And then add that Sans amp. Woo. So you can already tell that a lot of the like kind of unique character, and those of you with very keen ears may have immediately heard the sound of Sans amp when I played this track. But yeah, the Sans amp is definitely doing some heavy lifting here. Hi-hat mic. which was it a mic or was it the contact microphone? Let's listen here with no plugins. Yeah, so that's an actual microphone. Oh man, I really hate. I just have the toughest time with hi-hat microphones. So in this case, what we did was rolled off a bunch of low end that I did not think was necessary. I did the same trick here as before. I'm gonna go back and forth and see if you can hear the difference that it makes when just that analog 3 is on. Just trying to kind of mellow it out. Again, this thing that I used before, IVGI, this thing also has sort of a way of taming signal. And then you're noticing a theme. We've got the Sans amp again. Cool. Finally, a hi-hat sound that I can tolerate. Even though you may have just heard that and thought that sounds terrible, like it came from an old AM radio. I don't know. It's the vibe that I was looking for. Okay, the worst mic or the fat mic. I need to start calling this something different ever since I realized why it was, or was explained to why it was called the worst mic. Yeah, I got to start calling it something else. So give me a new name for this mic. This dry. Then let's see what we got going on here. Not that much, actually. A ton of low end. Again, I think I started with this preset, actually, this CLA mono room. I was just kind of curious what that would do. I think I kind of tweaked from there. So this is almost acting like the room mic, or almost like the overheads, but it's the worst position. So it's sort of inside the drum set. It's just over the kick, probably facing the snare, underneath the ride. So that's kind of the ambience you're getting from the room, rather than like actual room mics. That with the overheads. With everything else. Yeah, that kick is very present, and that is kind of part of what I was going for here. Let's talk about the bus processing. So on the drum bus, let's see what we did. Let me turn it all off. Not nearly as cool. So I used the Pultec. Now the big thing, obviously, you'll notice here is that I'm getting a lot more level. The way I'd mixed it, it was just kind of going into the drum bus fairly weakly. So I needed to juice it up a little bit. We are doing a not insignificant amount of compression though as well. But recall that sub kick is not going through this bus. So if that sub kick was going through here, it would be it would totally dominate the compression. But it's not going through it. So this is just compressing. This is compressing everything except for the sub kick. Okay, another free plugin. This one's awesome. Isotope Vinyl. Well, you can imagine what it does. You can use the year function here to basically tell it. I mean, it's not just a high and low pass, I don't believe, but I kind of think of it as like, okay, how hard do you want to high and low pass here? go all the way to 1930. Really cool way of sort of EQing and saturating something. And again, not the sub kick. If the sub kick was going through here, it would knock a lot of those low lows off of there. So sub kick had to be separate. And actually, I think when I mixed this, I had not gotten wise to messing around with the input and output gain on this. I've done that since then. So let's play with this a little bit. Getting some distortion out of it. So try and have it level matched. Ooh, that's mean. I might have to go and remix this before it gets released. So anyways, isotope vinyl, the J37. This is on it says it's on Abbey Road default. I think it's on this preset that I use frequently and kind of tweak to taste, which is mastering Fat Titan Open. Does something, I don't know. It just does something that I like. It is subtle though. Very subtle. If someone removed this from the recording, I wouldn't be terribly bothered. But it's on there. We've got another Pultec, and this is, what are we doing here? We are attenuating the low end a little bit, and we are boosting. Sorry. We're also attenuating a bunch of the high end. Shockingly, though, the effect is really not that drastic, and part of it is because there weren't that many low lows or high highs to begin with in this recording. So by the time I got here, it's not doing that much. And then you can see I've got two Pultecs, the other one, the mid-range EQ. I've got two of them in a row, and what are we doing here? We are dipping a bunch of 500. And we are dipping a little bit of 3K. That big dip in 500, which I know it's a cliche scooping the mids, but I mean for this sound that was really important. So again, I'll pop that in and out. Kind of woolly. And then that just sort of like sucked all of the, a bunch of the kind of graininess out. Then the last thing is another decapitator. Not doing that much. The mix is on pretty close to dry. But hey, it's there. So I think that's pretty much it. And I realize that I think my mic stand has been drooping ever so slightly the whole time here. So if you maybe scrub quickly back and forth through the video, you can see me unconsciously just getting lower and lower with the microphone there. Let me build that up a little bit. Yeah, so let me show you again with the track real quick. But I think that's pretty much all we need. Hopefully the screen recorder worked this time. And if you're seeing it, then it was a success. And I can do more videos like this. Obviously, there are many different styles of drum mixing, so there isn't going to be just one, like, this is how you mix drums video. This is a very specific type of mix. And, we can go over big rock drum sounds and, weird sounds and that sort of thing. So, once again, I'll just turn the vocals off and let's just hear it with the instruments. Whoops. There we go. Something weird is happening with the kick there. I'm not sure. I kind of prepared this a little bit. I kind of messed with the volume a little bit. So bear with me. So, anyways, I think maybe I just turned the sub kick up and forgot to turn it back down. Anyways, there's the vibe. Hopefully, this all makes sense and that some of it is helpful to you. If you like this kind of video, please let me know. I do tend to make videos based on what people are actually interested in seeing. So, if you like it, you can actually hit the like button or leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know if any of these tips are helpful or if you have any tips for me or for anyone else who's checking the video out. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.